For the sake of this webinar, we'll just focus on one location, which is Tony's Flowers HQ, which is right here. So this button right here is your timeline. So you can select if you want to be this date, the current week, past week, or future weeks. And this is probably one of the most important things here in this menu. This is the view by area by week. So we call it the view by. By default, it will go to view by area by week, as you can see right here. This is for rostering managers, the easiest view for them, as you can have your different areas, your different shifts, days, and so on. If you want to change, you can zoom in and out as much as you like. So if you want to be a little more on a day-to-day basis, you can go by view by area by day. As you can see that there we have much more detailed view with the different hours. You can see here that Charles is set to work from 9 a.m. to 5, and it shows right here. By week, which is our default. And then we have 2 weeks and monthly view. So the 2 weeks and monthly view are more used if you have, for example, let's say stable shifts. So you know in month, you know what you're going to do within a month's time. Okay. Now on the left side, right here, we can see we have all of our employees that are filled alphabetically from Amy, Glover, Ann Smith, Charles, Chris, and so on. If you click on this button right here, you can change the way it's ordered from top down, down top. You can search right here for a specific employee. So let's search for Charles, and then he will show up. And you can also select here to have what you want for it to be displayed. So if it's the display name, first name, last name, and so on. So the display name is usually the default name in which they registered on Deputy. So let's just go back to our normal view. There we go. Okay, so now that we have our shifts, let's actually create a shift. So let's create a shift for next week for Tony's Flowers. So Tony's Flowers HQ. I'm going to click right here to have the week from 3rd of May to 9th of May. And I am happy with this view for now. So to create a shift in Deputy, we have multiple ways. One of the easier ways is just click on the plus sign right here. And from there, a pop-up window will appear. As you have selected the area by week view, you can see that the area has already been filled out. You can always change it if it's a misclick. If you don't want that person to be working in admin, you can change it to customer support or management. Who is working that shift? So at this moment, when you create a shift, it's called an empty shift. Just to quickly have a quick overview on empty shifts and open shifts. An empty shift is a placeholder. So that just means that I want someone to work from 9 to 5 in this case. I don't know who yet. While an open shift is, I want someone to work from 9 to 5. However, when you publish your shift, all of the employees that can work that shift will be notified of it. So just for our example, we will select Golly. Now we can see that it has auto-filled the start and finish time from 9 a.m. to 5 p.m. These times are what you put in your location settings for this particular location. If you want to change the time, you can just click on the time. A drop-down will appear. You can change from 9:15 till 5. Or let's say Golly has to work from 9:30 till 4. You can also do it manually. So just type 9:30. And if you type just 4, Deputy will default to 4 a.m. So unless you guys are willing to pay overtime, we do recommend just type 4 and then p.m. and it will default to 4 p.m. We also work in 24 hours. So instead of saying 4, you want to just put 600. It would also default to 4 p.m. Meal breaks, same thing. That's a setting that you set up in your location area, in the location settings. Also, we have below notes. So these notes are very useful. For example, this is Monday. Let's say Golly, we have to remind her to do the start of the week's tasks. So we can say, reminder to do start of the week tasks. And then we save that shift. It will appear right here below. So now that we've created the shift one way, another way we can create a shift is by just drag and dropping. So for example, let's take Charles. On Tuesday, he will work. We just click on his name, drag and drop to Tuesday, and then there it is. It created the shift, Charles, admin, like I said, default times, the default meal break, and so on. And just click on save. Now, these are two ways you can create a shift. However, if it's the shift that's going to be the same one for the rest of the week, and you don't want to click here or drag and drop, you can always copy a shift. So the way to copy a shift is either you go on their shift, you click on the copy right here. This will pop up saying shift copy to clipboard, and then click on the date you want and press V and press paste. The shift will appear right now. Other way is you click on the shift, press C, so no command, no control, and then click on the other date and just press V. And then you'll have your shift that is copied. And now we just need one final day for Friday. So let's take Felix and drag and drop him here. Perfect. So let's say you've just created this shift and you're happy with this shift and you're happy for those people to work the next week. What you can do is on the right-hand side now, on copy shifts, if you click on that, it says you can have the option to copy their shift to next week or to other weeks. So if you want to next week, it'll go directly to the next week. Other weeks, you can go up to 6 months in advance. So all you have to do is click here, copy next week, and their deputy will remind you, this will copy the shifts from Monday the 3rd of May to the 9th to Monday the 10th of May to the 16th. Continue. You can select which areas you want. So right now we only have admin, but you can select all if you have other shifts, and then start copy. And so while deputy is working, there we go. It said all shifts have been successfully copied. And then you can see that deputy will automatically take you to that date, to the 10th to the 16th of May. So be sure when you're copying a shift to look at the date up top. Now, if you want, as well, in the copy shifts, you can also save a template. So before we go into before creating and saving templates, there's just one thing I just want to go back onto. It's about the open and empty shifts. So like I said, an empty shift is just basically a placeholder. So for example, you know you want someone to work 9 to 5 in the customer support on Monday, but at the moment you don't know who's available or not. So you just create an empty shift. That way you have a placeholder, but you cannot publish empty shifts. While an open shift, when you publish it, all employees that can work in there will be notified. Now, now we've got that covered. Let's go into templates. So I'm just deleting this shift, and I will delete that one as well. So we have our shift for the admin section. We want to create another shift for customer support and management. So we'll just quickly drag and drop a few people. That's on Felix is on leave that day, so that's not the correct one we want. Bear with me just 1 second. There you go. And enter. Okay, now we have 2 shifts, and we like those shifts. We want to keep those shifts for future use. The way we do it is we could copy those shifts, but like I said, there's a limit when we can copy shifts. So the best way would be to save this shift as a template. So to save a shift as a template, all you have to do is go into this area on the right. There's a drop-down menu. Click on it, go to Save Templates, and this will save your template for the 3rd of May to the 9th of May. So if you want to save your template, type any name, any name you want. So let's call this Tony's Flowers test templates scheduling. And when you're typing your name, be sure to press the enter button. Otherwise, it's not going to be saved. I press enter, and this, now it appears in gray. That means that it has been saved in our database. And you can put any description you want if you wish. And now I'll just have to click on save. The template has been saved. And let's say we go to the 17th of May and want to use that template. All you have to do is click here, go to load template, select our template, Tony's Flowers test template scheduling, and select that one. And all the shifts have been copied. And when we copy a shift or we copy a template or load a template, everything that was written in those shifts is copied as well. As you can see here, there's the reminder to do start of the week tasks for Golly. Now, one thing that is very important when creating a template is, for example, so first of all, let me just delete the shifts here. So let's say, for example, you have two different managers that are managing two different areas. One which is admin and the other which is, let's say, for example, customer support. If your admin manager creates a template for admin, but did not select the correct view, the deputy will save everything that's within what you're seeing on the screen. So for example, I load my admin template. And there we go. Now we can see that everything has been loaded from the template. However, let's say, for example, someone that works on customer support management decides to load their template as well. So click load templates. Now, which one was it again? Let's try this one. So when it loads, this will create what we call overlapping. As you can see there, it showed that employees that were meant to work in one area are also scheduled to work in another area, so that creates an overlap. And so when creating a template for a specific area, be sure to select in the locations tab, in the locations area, in the location button, the specific area you want. So if I just want one for admin, I click on Tony's Flowers admin. I create my template here, save it in that area. That way, when I decide to load it in the general schedule, it will not override anything else that was done before. And if you wish to delete templates or open shifts and things like that, all we have to do is click on this button right here that I've done a couple of times beforehand. So there's cog, and then you have remove all employees, remove empty shifts, mark empty shifts as open, and delete all shifts. So remove all employees, this pretty self-explanatory, will remove all employees from a shift. Remove empty shifts, so if you have any empty shifts, those will be removed. Mark empty shifts as open. That's all your placeholders will be marked as open, so that when you publish them, the employees that can work there will be notified. And delete all shift is just start again with a blank slate. As you can see right here. So now let's go back to our normal view. So view by area, by week. Now that we are happy with this shift, we want to publish it. So the way to publish it is once you start creating a shift, the button right here will start highlighting in purple for this case, or it can be different colors, with the number of shifts you want to publish. So if you want to publish a shift, all you have to do is click here, and this will show your publish menu. You can have publish updates only. That's mostly used when you have already published shifts and you want to change something. So for example, someone's not available, then you have to find a replacement, or their time and start and end time have changed, or publish all shifts. That's when you publish everything new. Even if you already have published your initially, you can just republish everything again. From there, you just click on next step. So you can decide which areas you want, all, non, or inverse. So for example, we don't have anybody in management, so I can decide not to choose management. Next step. And this is how you notify people. So we at Deputy have 3 ways plus 1 of notifying people. The one we recommend the most is the email and smartphone push notification. That means that when the shifts are published, your employees will receive an email and a smartphone push notification if they have the Deputy app installed on their smartphone, saying that a shift has been made, that the schedule has been published. The other 2 include an SMS. The thing is with the SMS that there's a cost associated with that. So that's more to personal preferences. If you want just to notify one person, you want to make sure they have it, you can send an SMS and ask for confirmation, or just SMS, or you can put notifications and just mark as published. Something I realized I have forgotten is in Deputy, you can also, you see right here that on the top, if we have those little weather symbols, basically tells you the weather, but if you click on the date, so you have the weather and you have this right here, what's happening today. So what's happening today basically allows you to either set that date as a public holiday or block time off requests. So if that day is a public holiday, you just click on it. And the day will appear in red, saying that this is a public holiday and people should not be working. So if you want to change this, just click on it again and go public holiday. Now, block time off request is, so let's say, for example, you are working in retail and it is before the Christmas rush. It's during the Christmas rush. And you want to have all of your employees to be available during that period. What you can do is click on this button right here. And so that means that if selected, team members will be unable to submit unavailability or leave request for this day. So I have to click on that, and it appears in gray, and then nobody can request a time off for the 7th. Now, if a shift is published, for example, here, and for some reason it's deleted, like for example, tomorrow for Friday the 30th, if we decide to delete a shift, all you have to do is go on edit, delete the shift, but the shift has been published. That means that your employee has been notified of it. What Deputy a new feature in Deputy is when you delete a shift, an employee will be notified that their shift has been deleted. To do that, so if I just delete a shift, it says there may be another shift for tester, please notify via email or phone. However, if you go into your location settings, select 24 Hours HQ, and go into scheduling, right now we have notify employee of removal. This is notify employees when they're removed from a published shift. So here you can select if you want them to receive an email or smartphone push notification or no notification at all. That is just when a shift has been published and you decide to delete that shift. So let's go back to the schedule. Now your shift has been published. Your employees have been notified of it. However, you still want to print them out for them. So that is, if you go on export, we have we have two options: have print by area and print by employee. So if you click by print by area, this will download a PDF of the file that will show you schedule for Tony's Flowers from Monday the 16th to Sunday the 2nd, with the different areas, different dates, the employees, their start and end time. And below you just have this B1. So this B1 means that they have their 1 30-minute meal break. That is the view by area. We also have that for employees. So for that, all we have to do is same thing, export, print by employee. And then there we have the names of the different employees. This is very useful, for example, if your employees have a hangout area and you want them to remind them of their shift, you can just print that schedule, post it on the door or anywhere else, and then they can easily see their name and say, okay, on Monday, I'm working the admin from 9 till 5. And finally, just one last thing. We see that unpublished shifts are in gray. Published shifts are in green, and open shifts, so shifts that are open to everyone, are in purple. That way, it's color-coded and it's an ease of use for you as a rostering manager to see what's happening. And the warnings are if you want to select someone that's not supposed to be, that's on leave or unavailable, or if there's overlap. So I'll have just a quick recap before we go into the Q&A. So what we did today was we saw the different ways to view shifts, how to create and manage shifts, different ways to copy, paste, certainly automate your roster through copying, pasting, creating a template, loading a template, how to schedule holidays and block time of requests, and also how to print your shifts for your employees for their better use. So from there, I'll give it back to my colleague Gali for the Q&A.
Thanks a lot, Charles. We've had a lot of questions come through, and thank you everyone for asking your questions and joining this webinar. We've picked out a few of them that we think that would provide the most value for everyone in this session. And we'll go through the ones that we've missed out after this session, and we'll publish them on the webinar landing page on our website. And an email will be sent to you with a recording of today's training. So let's get right into it. So we had a couple of questions coming in with regards to view by area and view by employee and the difference in these. Charles, if you don't mind just clicking onto the view tab. So there's two view types that you can use, whether it'll be view by area or view by employee, as you can see. And there are a selection of timeframes that you'll be able to view these schedules. I guess in terms of what's useful with regards to managers, maybe they may want to know what's happening in all of the areas, hence why we've set the default as view by area on a weekly schedule. And then if we just click onto the view by employee for week, and over here, this is where you'll be able to get an overview of all the annual leaves or unavailability of your employees and actually see what's happening during that week with regards to your employee's schedule. So it really depends where or what kind of information you're after and how this sort of view type suits your business. And then we had another question with regards to bulk actions for a schedule. So if we can just click onto the side, a few of our questions were, if we click any of these buttons in terms of the bulk actions, for instance, remove all employees, so forth, and whether this would affect the whole scheduling that a business has done. Just to touch up on the importance of the three tabs we have on the left-hand side, so the location, the time frame and the view. So whatever you're seeing as in what's on the schedule right now, if you hit any of those bulk actions, that will only impact the time frame that we're looking at and the location that we've selected. So it does not affect your entire schedule from sort of previously or in the future. But definitely be mindful with when you're clicking on any of those bulk actions. And there was another question with regards to the difference in OpenShift and an empty shift. And as Charles had shown earlier, an OpenShift, it's basically like it's for any of the staff. This will OpenShift will be notified to all of your employees. So that's just the manager or the scheduling manager letting people know that there is a shift up for grabs. An empty shift is a placeholder, just letting you know that you need to fill up this shift. And employees will not be notified when an empty shift is created. So this will be the scheduling manager's responsibility to fill that shift in. And that's the difference between them. And on the schedule, when you create them, you'll see that the empty shift is a gray box and an open shift is sort of like a pinkish purple color. That's the difference between the two. And we had a couple of questions with regards to schedule settings. So we'll just show you where that is in the location tab. Anything with regards to paid breaks or shift hours, anything that you need to change, this is where you find the information for this to change maybe when your week starts or your shift duration. This is what you've selected for this location will reflect on your schedule. So definitely go in here and make the amendments according to how your business operates as well. And
sorry, can anyone hear me? This is Felix. I hope everyone can hear me. Yeah, we got a lot of questions coming through. So that's it was I was one of the people answering in the chat quite a bit, so you guys would have seen my answers. Now there is quite a few questions that came in regarding the public holidays. So Charles, if you could do me a favor and go on the schedule again, and also for rostered days off. So the first thing I think we have to show again is how, just to start with the basics, how we can actually put a public holiday in. So one thing that's important to mention about this is this doesn't appear automatically. The reason for that is that we are selling our product basically in, I think, about 84 countries. Obviously, those countries have a lot of different public holidays. And so we can't automatically have them in the schedule. So you need to do this manually. Now, if you go on the actual date, Charles, you can just click on one date at the top. Suppose if we just choose one and sorry, I might be not seeing this. Oh, there we go. And then where it says what's happening today, those are the two important buttons. So if you press public holiday, then you would see that the background for this whole day becomes red or reddish. Now, this means for every shift that is scheduled in one of those days, your staff members will have the public holiday rates attached to them. And then there were quite a few questions regarding what is with public holiday not worked, meaning if someone gets paid the regular base rate for not working on a public holiday, which is quite a valid question. Now, if that's the case, as you see here, if we do it this way, there is no place to put in regular shifts. So what we suggest in order to do that, in order to facilitate that, sort of the easiest way is to create an area And I think maybe actually, Charles, we should spend the time on doing this now. So if we quickly go to locations, because there are quite a few questions regarding that, and we choose any location. So you would add an additional area to this. You would call that area, for example, public holiday not worked or something like that. The reason why we call it like that is it will appear on the timesheets from those staff members afterwards. And if it says in their public holiday not worked, it's pretty clear for those staff members, first of all, that they don't show up at work, and also afterwards what this specific shift was about. It was for a public holiday not worked. That's why we advise to name it something like that, so everyone knows. The next thing we need to do, and this is always usually the tricky part, because that's something that we have to do, this is not customer facing, is we need to take this particular area out of the public holiday rates. And what that means, if you go back to the schedule charts, and if we just quickly show that, seems like our internet is slow today. Apologies for that. There we go. Could you go to the week that has the public holiday in? Which I think was next one maybe, or last one. There we go. There it is. So if we now go to the bottom, oh, there it is actually, public holiday not worked. Now, as you see, that area has a red background as well. Once our team has gotten into the back end of this account and would have taken this area out, it would appear white. Only that area would appear white. All the other ones would stay red on this particular day. This means you can actually roster someone in there, and then their timesheet that gets created later on has the normal base rate attached to it with an area called public holiday not worked, which then is clear to everyone that this was, a normal shift for a public holiday not worked. Everyone else who works on that day, please roster them as normal in all the other areas that you have to roster them in. Another question, while we're on that topic, if you go back on the date at the top charts, so the Saturday one is the block time off requests. A few people were asking about automating this. So a few things on that. We can't automate it in a sense that, have like an algorithm behind it that says, hey, if 2 of my 10 employees take off, can we automatically turn this on? This is unfortunately not possible yet. So to answer this, we actually have to do this manually. So if you notice that there is a particular day that either you need all your employees and you know this beforehand, just tick that box. As maybe you should tick it too, actually, Charles, so we can show. If we tick that box, what you will notice is at the top, the background of that day will be sort of a little bit more grayish than the other ones, right? So it would be gray compared to white, which means this day is blocked from time off requests. We can also not do this for a time frame, meaning if you want to block a whole week or something. So you can do it, but you have to do it per day individually. So if there's a whole week that's very busy, just make sure you tick this box for every single day in that week. Cool. That is public holidays. I have not had a look at the other questions. Let's quickly see. Golly, is there anything else in there that is? So we got quite a few questions.
Excellent. We did have a couple of questions with regards to preferred employees for an area, and with regards to open shifts. And Charles, if we can just select an area, and on the next to the edit button, you will be able to add your preferred employees to an area. And to be able to do that, it's right at the bottom here. As you can see, it says preferred employees. You'll be able to add any of your employees that you specifically want for them to work within that certain area. And with the these are all, let's say, qualities that Deputy kind of with algorithms that when we send out an open shift, when you've put a preferred employee in there, this will be sent out to, for instance, the 3 that Charles has collected at the bottom, selected at the bottom, that will be sent out first to them, and then or work down the list of employees that are there. I guess that was it was one of those questions that a lot of people had asked. And someone had also asked if we were able to add a address to an area. And that is possible. If your area does have a different location address, you will be able to do that. So once again, it will be, you can either do that through the, I think it will be through maybe location settings. So if we just click onto the location settings, and we click onto the areas, and we select whatever area we want, and you can actually add the a different, if your area has their own address, that's where you'll be able to add the details.
Okay, I can have a go at a few more questions. So one more thing I want to mention, because we're still getting quite a few questions too. So actually 2 more things I want to mention. They're very important. First of all, quite a few questions are very account specific. So for example, if you're having export issues, exporting your timesheets into QuickBooks and stuff, I've seen a few of those things. Those won't be questions that we can answer in this webinar. There's 2 reasons for that. First of all, we're actually not talking about timesheets today, but the other reason is also this is very specific and will probably help only a very few of you. So those kind of questions, and you would have gotten those answers in the Q&A section from me as well, please reach out to our support chat, because in order to give you a proper answer to this, we need to look into your account. This is not something we can address in our test account. The second thing is, please make sure if you have a question to use the Q&A section, not the chat. So we had quite a few people that wrote something in the chat. The reason for that is when this webinar is finished, we actually download all of those questions and then answer them later on, and we can't do that with the chat. So if you've asked a question in the chat and that hasn't been answered yet and you want that to be answered, please put it in the Q&A section so we have that recorded also for after the webinar. With that said, one more thing that came up a few times is, how can I move shifts or templates within locations? How can I see multiple locations at once and stuff like that? So I think what we should show in this case, Charles, is how to hide areas. So, or actually we should probably touch on the views first. So you can't look at 2 locations at once, right? So what you can do in the view up there, if you go to the top, we can see all locations. These would be all the locations that are in your business. Underneath that, sorry, Charles, if you go back on it, we have the actual locations and then the areas in those locations. You can choose either of those, right? You can choose one location, which means you're looking at all areas at once. Or you choose all locations, which means you're looking at your whole business at once. If you now want to move certain shifts from one location to another, maybe we should go on all locations for that, Charles. I think it would be easier. Yeah, perfect. And maybe put a shift in Store Manager. Thank you. Just can be an empty one actually, or an open one, doesn't really matter. This case, perfect, cool. If you want to move this shift or multiple shifts, if you have multiple in there, one thing you can do is hide the areas underneath it. So in the middle, you see this button, Charles is clicking on now, that says hide areas. You can do that with all the areas that you don't want to look at in order to drag and drop that shift down. So if you have, there's a few questions regarding things like our locations change a lot, and I do want a specific shift for an employee and I want to move it from one location to the other. This is, if we're talking about just a few shifts, this is probably the simplest way of doing it. Make sure you look at all locations and then hide the ones you don't need for doing this, and then you can move it. Another option, if we're talking about multiple shifts or a whole template or something like that, is to use our bulk update. So maybe if we can move it back, Charles, that one shift. And maybe if we could look, because I don't want to ruin the whole roster now, if we look at the location that we're working in, which was HQ, I believe. Is that right? Yeah. If we go to the HQ location, perfect. And then there we have the admin area. So imagine you want to take all of those 4 shifts and you want to move them from the admin area to, say, management. Right? One thing you can do is go to bulk update. So if we go to, yeah, perfect. And then there is the bulk update. Now, one thing that's extremely important about bulk update, and probably the most important information before using bulk update, is before you do this, make sure, actually, yeah, we should get out of this actually. Could you, because I want to show it, could you create a shift in customer support, management, and public holiday not work? Can be a single shift, just so that we can show this now. Actually, not in management, just in customer support and in, yeah, and one in public holiday not worked. That's okay. Put someone else in. Perfect. And one in public holiday not worked. Test. Yeah, awesome. Cool. So one thing that's very important before we use the bulk update is the bulk update will update everything that's currently on your screen. This means if we're looking at the whole location, which we're doing, if I now do a bulk update and I say I want all the shifts that I'm seeing moved to management, it will do that to all of those. Which means if we only want the, what was the area called at the top? Sorry, can you scroll up? The admin. If we only want the admin shifts moved to management, we need to hide the customer support area. There we go. And the public holiday not worked area. Cool. Now you've only those 2 areas open that you need. And given that a few people ask the same question about locations, this is the exact same workflow if you want to do this for locations. We're only doing this now in one area because that's the area where we prepared the shifts for. But it's exactly the same. Just make sure that you hide the stuff that you don't want to move. Very, very important. Now, if we go to bulk update. Perfect. Then we choose the field. Now, in my case now, in this example, we don't want to change the start time or the end time or anything like that. What we want to change is the area. We want to move all of those shifts from admin to management. So we choose the area here. And again, if you would do this across locations, you would choose not the area. You would obviously choose, actually, sorry, you would choose the area, but it would be a different area than in that location. For example, you could have admin in the HQ location. You can also have admin in the Melbourne location. So what you then would choose is you move it from admin HQ to admin Melbourne. But that's not what we're doing. We're moving it from admin to management. The second thing that's important here, if you click management, please always choose here the new value, not the old one. This is what do you want to have done to this shift or shifts. It's always the new value, not the old one. And now if we press apply update, you will see how those 4 shifts will move down. And our internet is a little bit slow here today. There we go. Another thing that's worth mentioning, some of you might notice that they are now gray, not green anymore. The reason for that is because they were published in the admin area. Now that we moved them to a new area, they're not published anymore because we're actively, we changed something in a published roster. So in order to tell your employees about this change, we would now have to republish this roster. Cool. That was that. I hope that answered a lot of those, how can I move shifts from one location or one area to another area, etc. Then we got also quite a few questions about awards. Awards is more of a pay rate training, because we're today talking about the schedule, not about the awards. But again, please put those questions in here. We will answer them later on and publish that on our homepage. Is it possible to bulk update moving one entire person's roster? That's what someone asked. That is a good question. Now, that is something you can only do if you have an area, let's say, where you only have one person in it, meaning you have a management or you have an admin area where you have only one person that works 5 days in that area and you want to move it then over. Because you can only hide on an area level, you cannot hide on an employee level in the schedule. What we've done here is we hide areas. Okie dokie. What else do we have? Rostered day off. I think we should also show unavailabilities and leave one more time because there was quite a few questions, Charles. So one thing that's important for this is the view that you're looking at. We can't show unavailabilities and leave in the area view. The reason for that is that we're looking at the schedule on an area basis, not on an employee basis. If we change this, which is at the top, and we change it to one of the employee options, which are at the bottom exactly there, you will see how the roster will change a little bit. And there we can see the unavailabilities. Another thing to mention, because I saw this also a few times in the Q&A section, is Deputy works with unavailabilities, not availabilities. That means if an employee does not have an unavailability submitted for a specific day or period of days, Deputy treats this employee as being available. This is sometimes for certain, for team members in your business, that might sometimes be a bit of a mindset shift because they treat it as they have to submit their availabilities. But this is not how Deputy works. In Deputy, you are available if you don't have a specific unavailability in there. That's why we also always recommend to please submit unavailabilities and leave ideally before your manager creates the schedule, because then you can look at it exactly like we're doing here. And you see that Sam is unavailable Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, which we would not know if he would have not put the unavailability. And the same goes for leave. And then someone asked, can we delete those unavailabilities? And the answer is yes. I mean, it's not that you can delete them, but you would have to go on that person's profile. You should not do that in the schedule. So you would actually have to, in this case, Sam would have to go into his profile and do that there. Unavailabilities and leave is in general something that we cover in the leave management webinar. So if you have a few more questions about that, please look at that webinar. In there, we actually covered unavailabilities and leave quite in detail and also show you how you can submit an unavailability or leave, etc. Cool. I think we might have time for one more question. So let's have a look at this. Somebody asked about the standard hours. This is also not for the scheduling one. Can we block? And I give back to Golly. She has a question.
I guess this is our last question that we'll be covering. And we've got a question regarding how to add employee certificates with an expiry, as this will affect sort of the scheduling that you do. So, Charles, if we can just hit the People tab, you'll be able. You need to add the employee certificates to the employee's profile. So we'll just select an employee here. And then just where it says underneath job information and where it says training, that's where you'll be able to add, for instance, we can add a first aid training here. And just with saying that, and then to be able to add an expiry date, if we can just click that pen edit button. Excellent. And right at the bottom, you'll be able to select a expiry date there. And even if you have a training date as to where it began with that, and attach any sort of document that would be relevant to that training. So whether it's a certificate or a letter, a form, attach that. Excellent. And please be mindful, if you do add a training type into your employee profiles, that will impact how you schedule or who you schedule within an area. And you can add training requirements to an area as well. So perhaps we can just quickly cover that as well. So this was training for an employee, and then we'll just show you how to do training for an area as well. The difference is when you add a training to an area, that will it's an indication that this employee requires this training type to be able to work within that certain area. So we'll just, this is where Charles says, so we've got the area name as admin, and then our training requirement is the first aid. So anybody who has a first aid training attached to their profile will be able to work within this area. Excellent. Okay. Please take a minute to complete the short survey in the Q&A panel as well. This, like we said before, the video training and the questions and answers will be posted on our training page on our website. Please do let us know in the poll how you like today's session. Your feedback is important to us. And again, thank you very much for joining myself, Charles, and Felix, and we wish you a wonderful day ahead.